call the meeting of the Lee County Board of Education to order. We don't have an invocation on the list.
Let me offer a prayer for us.
Bow with me. Father, thank you for the time that we have gathered here tonight. May your wisdom and discernment reign in this room as we discuss and deliberate the business before us. May everything we say and do honor you first and be the best for the school system, our students, parents, teachers, and taxpayers of Lee County. In Christ's name I pray. Amen. You have the agenda before you. We can adopt it by consent. All right. And then we have the consent agenda. There is a lot of things on that agenda. Dr. Miller, would you like to discuss any of that?
Yes, sir. We decided to go ahead with the consent agenda for this evening because we do have a lot of personnel actions. This agenda tonight includes 5 fundraiser, 20 recommendations for employment, 19 resignations, and 7 reassignments. And please note that 4 of those reassignments are related to leadership positions. So the reason to go ahead tonight was that sometimes can have a domino effect, and so we need to expedite that process of filling the positions. And then there are 2 out-of-state or overnight field trips.
You have the consent agenda before you. What is the pleasure of the board?
I move that it be accepted. Approved.
Got a motion, is there a second? Any discussion?
Dr. Miller, we noted that there were 12 teaching positions, 3 special ed teachers, and a counselor, and 3 administrative positions, totally 19. Is this included in these resignations, or is this
Are you speaking of the email I sent you
Yes.
earlier? Some of it is part of that, and some of it not. There's not, for example, on the day I emailed you, I knew that there was a open position in one of the elementary schools, but subsequent to that, or after that email, we got a recommendation filling that position. So it's kind of a moving target. But right now, are you asking how many positions we have open? Is that, I think, what you're asking? Right now, I believe we discussed today there are about 15 openings in the system.
Okay, and that's the majority of those are teaching positions, because we have filled some of the admin positions. I don't know about the counselor.
Yes, ma'am. Most of that are teaching positions, and we have 1 admin that is open currently.
At Kitchener.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
All right. Any further questions? Hearing none, all those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Passes 4-0. All right, we'll move on to discussion and action items. We are here tonight primarily to have a public hearing about the proposed budget. Dr. Miller?
Well, I have asked our finance director, Mr. Gary Kelly, to make a presentation concerning the tentative budget, and I'm going to turn it over to him, and then we'll welcome comments or input from the public.
In the back of the room, there was a handout that's basically the budget document itself, and this presentation, I'm gonna go through that. So hopefully y'all picked up a document back there. Cause you're not gonna see it up there on that screen. It's just too small. Anyway, this first page is the actual budget that the board adopts. It's called the budget at the aggregate level, which is basically your 3 main revenue sources, federal, state, and local. And then the function codes that our expenditures are classified in, like instruction, general administration, and we'll go through those. So basically, if you look at the total budget, somebody asks you what's the total budget of the Board of Education, it would be the total expenditures of $72,600,000. Now, of which $4 million is our debt service, and those are debt service requirements that we have to fund the debt. So that's really not our annual operating budget. The main operating budget is the general and the special revenue fund. Usually we have activity in capital projects, but we're out of money in capital projects right now, and those projects are basically, we're finished with our SPLOST projects. or the money that we have to do those. So let's move on to, again, that's the total, the transfer that you'll see in there, the 180, that's the local cost of the pre-K program. So the next is a page 2, and I'm just got the summary up here, and then we'll actually go page by page of the budget. Page 2 is our local revenues, and they primarily consist of our ad valorem and SPLOST taxes. We have tuition and interest and other income. The local sales for school, lunches, the payment that the parents make for the kids, that's considered local money. Our SPLOST, for the last few months, has took a little bit of dive, and I don't know if we don't need to reconsider the 3.6 based on the last few months, but that was based on the collections for last year. Page 3, state revenue. The majority of our money comes from the state. It's $38.5 million of state funding. And then we get about 1.3 from the lottery for the pre-K program. We get some state money for the food service program. But as you can tell, the majority of it is state funded. And that increased significantly this year because of the teacher's $3,000 raise. Federal revenue, on page 4, basically is our Title I, our 6B, our food service, and we get some vocational funds. Title II, which is improving teacher quality, we use that grant to put in a technology instructional support specialist and then some additional training. The Title III, LEP, and immigrant is for your children that don't speak English. Page 5 is where we get into instruction. And total instructional expenses is $43 million. Of that, almost $70 million. This is where the majority of the money is spent, and it's in object code 110 and 118, which is your teacher salaries. When we get to another page, it will summarize salaries by all object codes, and you can see what percentage each one is made up of. But the biggest part of the budget right here is in salaries and benefits and instruction. We have about 1.7 million in operations, and if you add pre-K, it's 1.9 in instructional operations. Page 6 is our pupil services. Pupil services is our athletic supplements, our psychologists, social workers, and OT and PT, which is occupational and physical therapy. Salaries in this is about 1.8 million, and benefits is 774,000. Page 7, improvement in instructional services. This is basically our curriculum, department, and staff development, and all instructional support of the school system. So this is not hands-on direct instruction. This is the people who support direct instruction. Page 8, educational media services. This is our media specialists, the paraprofessionals in the media centers, and there's library dues. We contribute $81,000 to the local library for their support, and we spend about $50,000 each year on books in the library. Page 9 is general administration. This is basically the superintendent, our legal costs, the Board of Education, and basically legal fees. We spend about $600,000 on general administration. School administration, page 10. This is our principals, assistant principals, the clerical in the schools, and they don't spend that much in the actual operation of the school in the office, the business office, because there's just not that much actual expenditures in the school central office. But there is some software, and is about $70,000, and that's to deal with the school's infinite campus type software. Page 11, business administration. This is my office. We have 3 accountants or bookkeepers, and myself, and then I have a person at the warehouse that's in here. It basically is our warehouse central receiving. This year we had a change. We were moving to a web-based software to help with our accounting program, and that $60,000 that's budgeted in there had never been there before. And basically, we will have more of an online type purchase order system that is live with the teacher. When the teacher actually makes the purchase order, she can see it, and it gets automated, and it comes all the way through. And it actually goes all the way out to the receiving department as the process goes through. So when it's received, I mean, it's automated, and we have not had this in the past, and it's gonna really improve that process. Maintenance operations. This is a major expense in the school system. This is page 12. This is our custodians, our maintenance staff, our grounds, and in that's water, sewer, and cleaning. We have a contract with Airmark to help pay for our cleaning, and the energy is $1.2 million. I told Dr. Miller today, energy at one school for 1 month is more than some people make in a year. And I mean, I don't think people realize when you pay an electric bill for one school that's $30,000 in a month, how quickly that adds up. So basically $5.5 million on maintenance and operation. Page 13 is 2,700 student transportation. This is our bus drivers, our mechanics, our bus riders, our transportation director, and the cost to operate the school buses on an annual basis. And that energy is $475,000. That number's a little high because basically we went there one year when we had Hurricane Katrina. Thank goodness we haven't went back to that amount. We're having trouble with keeping bus drivers and getting bus drivers, so this year we put in an attendance incentive that basically can make a bus driver earn about $1,200 more a year if they don't miss any days. So at the end of the year, we'll look at their total attendance, and we're going to give them $3.33. And I'm up here in front of you. I can't remember if that's per route or per day for every day that they don't miss. But if you multiply that times 180 school days, it comes up to $1,200. Now, if they don't work 180, if they make 90%, which is they're not out by 18 days, or 17, 18 days, they're going to get that incentive. But if they miss more than 18 days, they're not going to get it. However, if they miss 15 days, they're going to lose $3.33 times 15 days, or 30 trips. I got to do the math on that. Kevin, is it per trip or per day?
I thought it was per trip,
I think it is, but I can't do the math in my head without calculating.
To get to $1,200, you gotta be
Per trip, okay. 2,800, page 14, central support services. This is Mr. Downey's department personnel, and we've added in this web-based software about $50,000. Half of that is the software I was talking about with the purchase order system, but a lot of this is human resources, the same. And I'm going to defer to you. I can't remember what all it does for you on the human resources side, but it also gets us to a time clock that's basically your phone. Can you elaborate?
Yeah, it basically automates the called Time Clocks Plus. It will automate the leave system to where now you can we have machines that you punch a clock in everywhere, and this will allow either a kiosk to be done electronically and keep up electronically, or you can even have an app on your phone where people would clock in and clock out with that. That goes electronically into their leave, into their attendance, and instead of Sherry having to manually count time cards every week, this would be done automatically, we'd have a report that we could also put into PC Genesis, which of course is our software that does everything, and integrates seamlessly with PC Genesis as well. Also, obviously, the leave system, I mean, you know, keeps up with leave, keeps track of type of leave that you have, you know, whether it's professional, annual, whatever.
I've been told I've been operating in the dark ages for the last several years, so maybe, I mean, this is gonna improve some morale around this office, it already has. Other support services, this is our contribution to the membership of ERISA, and that number has not changed since I've been here. I don't understand how they can keep doing business at $16,750, but that's what we contribute to ERISA each year. Page 16, that's our food service program. If you wanna know what we take to produce lunches for students for a year, it's $3.4 million, $3.5 million, $3,350,000. The lunchroom salaries is this is the lunchroom staff. We have a clerical office over there for their accounting department, and they have 2 secretaries and an accountant. And basically the cost in there is the salaries and the food. $1.2 million in food. The donated commodities is money that the federal government gives us for donated commodities, and we assign a value. There's really no cost to it, but it comes in at the federally assigned value. So the state tells us what to record that as a revenue and an expense at the same time. So 17, page 17, community service operations. This is our after-school program. And if you'll notice, there's $100,000 in there for expendable equipment. We don't have $100,000 of expendable equipment spent in that program. What we do with that program is take the money that program generates and we try to enhance things in the system. It may be a fence for the school, it may be playground equipment or stuff like that. But that basically, we take the revenue from the after-school program and use it in a way to benefit the system. Page 18, capital outlay, which there is none. There will be no more SPLOST projects when we finish the lighting project at the high school. I mean, that would pretty much take us out of the SPLOST funds, so there's nothing there. Page 19, debt service. This is our obligations every year, and I have a thing there at the bottom that shows you our obligations on the way out for the next 3 years, and then for the next 8 years past that, 12 years past that. So basically, after next year, we'll have 9.3 million on the 2014 bond, plus the 290,000 on the 14A, and 11.3 on the 2016 issue. The 14A and B are SPLOST bonds, and the 16 is a local bond that was we put in the field house. And there was a lot of other projects with that too. Page 20 is a summary, and I like this page because it kind of tells you where all these other pages are actually by the function category. This kind of brings it to a total and total salary and benefits and operations, sets it out into a kind of what all these dollars are going into. So basically 57%, and I use the bottom number because the first two includes your debt service payment. And since there's no capital outlay, it also includes capital outlay when they have capital outlay. So basically 87% of our budget is salaries and benefits, with 13% being in operations. Page 21.
Hold on a minute, Gary, show me that again.
Okay, on
You
page
said 87% is what?
salaries and benefits. If you take the total, at the bottom it's a percentage. The first column you see salaries, at the very bottom you got 57%.
Yeah.
And the second column is total benefits, that's 30%. So the two of those added together is 87%. Page 21, it's a summation of all object codes across all functions and what they make up as a total percentage of the total budget from operations. And I know these numbers are small, but if you need to borrow my glasses, I've got some 2.0s over here. But, in this example, teacher salaries, which you need to add 118, which is music, art, and TE teachers, the state separates those. On the total budget, teacher salaries is about 34% of the total budget. But that tells you how much each object code makes up of the entire budget. And the next columns over there tell you what functions we just went through they are charged to. Page 22, this breaks down just pure salary, the total budget for salaries, and how much each object code line in salaries, how much they make up, and then at the bottom tells you how much in each function they are. Let's see here, your 56, before it was 34% over here in total salaries. Teachers 56% and 6%. So you're looking at 62% in total salaries that teachers make up. Bus drivers make up 3.55, but I hope this helps break down the budget for you to determine, let's see, I've skipped a slide. That's what I'm doing here. Page 23 and 24 are pie charts. Our state money, like most of our funding, most of our funding is 63%. Local's about 30%, and our federal's about 7%. Page 24, direct instruction. If you go back to those categories on those functions, direct instruction equals 1,000, 2,100, which is pupil services, 2210, educational media services, 2220, 2210, which is improvement of instructional services. Those are considered your direct instruction. Direct instruction makes up about 73% of our entire budget. Central administration is 1.9, school administration 5.2, maintenance and operations 8%, transportation 6.5. Community service, that is the after school program. It's not even a percent, and the food service is about 5%. Changes. Okay, the last 2 pages of this document is the comparison of last year's budget to this year's budget. And in our budget, our local revenues are going to go down about $82,000, and that's because we don't have any SPLOST projects. So we don't have any SPLOST money on hand that's drawing interest. So our interest earned is going to go down some. And I think I had wrote that twice, but there is I wrote that twice. The food service program, that number is the same, but the food service program has had a little bit of a decrease in local revenue. We had an increase in the federal revenue, but we think this is going to change because when we had the storm come through, a lot of people recalculated and got free lunches. Now that's not going to last forever, but
it'll end about September, is my understanding. The people that had freezers,
right,
that those benefits will end.
okay. So basically, but we do increase a little bit. Expect an increase in food, nutrition, and the federal programs of about 237. The state money is where our biggest increase, and that was $2.6 million. The majority of that, the $2.6 million, is $3,000 for each teacher in the state of Georgia. All certified staff getting $3,000. We want, because of the bonds that when we went out and bought all those buses, we no longer earn state funds for bus replacement. But it was $77,000. We could only replace one bus, and that's 70% of the cost of a bus. So we were only earning that, and basically when we were in austerity reductions, we weren't buying buses because we couldn't afford them. So what happened was we have 70 routes, and a bus, if you go 10 years, we need to be putting 7 buses on each year. We don't have the money to put 7 buses on each year. So we have kind of moved our our bus purchases into our SPLOST program. So that every 5 years, we're gonna continually need to buy buses. Nothing like what we did years ago, the last SPLOST, where we bought 45 buses, but we do need to address several buses each SPLOST. We always pick up a little money in pre-K, and the state funds and nutrition program went down just a tad, so I took that into account. Page 26 is the changes in expenditures. We added 5 teaching positions. We have added some administrative support at the bus shop, and 476 certified people got step increases of $3,000. We got a $3,000 raise. Attendance incentive for the bus drivers is projected to be $90,000. Our non-certified staff got a 2% raise, which is $142. And actually, if you look, the rest of it is a decrease. And what happened is each year, retired people leave. People retire, and new people come in, and so that kind of takes money into account. I mean, you save money when the retired people move on. So basically, that reduces your budget a little bit. Employee benefits, the state of Georgia increased our teachers' retirement. We got to pay 21%. So every employee that's covered under teachers' retirement, the school system pays 21% of their salary. And that's up a little bit. That's projected to go back down next year, but right now it's an increase. The benefits for them, all the changes up there is about $200,000. And then the increase in the benefits was raised. The benefits for just the new positions is $200,000. The benefits for all the teachers with the $3,000 pay increase is about $389,000. Operations budget, I have increased energy because we have got more buildings and we have more energy costs. I've added the web-based software programs that I told you about for HR and accounting and timekeeping. Budget purchase service, that's just, I don't know the change, but I'm just looking at what's going on from year to year. That has got more activity. The city is going to increase our water and sewage. They told us to estimate $30,000, so we have done that. We've increased their budget for our maintenance vehicles. They're wearing out. They need a little bit more replacement on those, and some of that is lawnmowers and stuff like that. Budgeted supplies, current year activity, they just increased supplies overall $24,000. And then every year, based on what the insurance comes in with bids, I mean, our insurance, I just talked to the guy today, went up $9,000 over last year. So there's changes on the insurance, and just little small add up, $38,000 just changed. This year we had no capital outlay. Last year we had $560,000, and then we will pay about $4,750 more in debt retirement next year than we did this year. And that, in a nutshell, is the changes of the budget and the budget now. Are there any questions?
Yeah, I see you have a new transportation director position in addition to the Baltimore. Does that position require $89,000 for that one position?
Yes.
This is the time for public participation. Any questions from the audience? Feel free to let us know who you are.
But here, why do we need 2 directors?
I can answer that. We need some leadership at the transportation department. When Mr. Ricky passed away, Miss Angie was made the director, and she's done well, but we're dealing with a lot of issues in the bus area, and we feel like this investment of money will help us to get that under control. And when I speak of issues, maintenance and operations, driver performance, student behavior, and just efficiency of running that office. And we feel like this new person will help us achieve that. I think there'll be a return on this in the savings that we have.
We had two when Ricky was out there. I mean, we just didn't have it, you know, on paper. Angie was Ricky's right hand when Ricky was out there. I'm not going to address, you know, the compensation of the person, but the position is definitely needed. I mean, when Ricky left, she's overwhelmed and she's asked for help. I mean, she does a great job, but that is more than one person can handle. She had Ricky, and I mean, she was basically doing the routing for Ricky, and so not to justify any money or nothing like that, but the position is definitely needed.
Is that salary, is that comparable, is that, other systems pay that much attention?
Well, this is a little bit different. This is an administrator, and one of his responsibilities will be helping with student discipline on the bus, which is a major concern that I have, that I want to see improve. And he's going to help us in that because he can be more directly involved in that process than somebody who's not a certified person. And this is something that other systems have done, and I feel like this is a way forward for us.
What do you mean by certified?
He's a school administrator. He's been a disciplinarian in one of our schools, and assistant principal.
Master's degree or above?
Yes, sir. Certified and non-certified. Certified are your teachers, your counselors, librarians. They have a college degree that prepares them to operate in that area, and then non-certified are those other positions. They may or may not have a college degree. That includes everything from custodians to cafeteria workers, maintenance.
Gary, did I miss, you had a couple of things where it says, other than textbooks, how much did we spend on textbooks?
Well, let's go back over here to page 21.
I missed it.
I think it's $106,000 I have budgeted, but we spent less than that. Bob, that page will give you basically the answer to how much we spend on any object code.
Where on there is local hire teachers?
Local what?
Local hire.
It isn't. I mean, it's gonna be, you take the total, I can get you the amount by taking the total that we have in teacher pay and then subtract what the state gives you for teachers. But I mean, they fund on the allotment sheet, I don't have it with me, but probably 80% of the teachers, the other 20% is locally or federally funded, or pre-K.
The $3,000 raise, for the local teachers, that's local increase there, right?
Yes.
Maybe I can ask this different. How much do we pay GSBA every year?
I don't know the answer to that question.
Gary, you know?
Off the top of my head, I can't tell you, but I can go in there and pull something and give you them. But now we're
$12,000 or $13,000 in my dues.
we pay them for all of our insurance too. So I mean, that's in the neighborhood closer to 200,000. I mean,
What do you mean, all of our insurance?
our property and casualty insurance was now through GSPA. Everything but workers' comp, we go through GSPA, and that was actually it saved us about $50,000 to move to GSPA for our insurance. And they're doing a jam up job.
I just don't,
That was
I didn't see it on
we
the.
made, was it last year?
Mhm.
And we had some savings opportunity there by routing that through them versus
And with the hurricane, they actually sent a person from the insurance company as a superintendent on the job to repair everything. So basically, that individual was out there repairing the stuff. Now there was some stuff that Franklin had to repair that we had to have fixed, like a roof before we got back to school. On the high school was leaking. He let us go ahead with that, but the other projects, they pretty much handled the replacement of it through their superintendent. So we never really had any outlaw funds, they paid for it.
To cut energy costs, have we considered solar?
No, I haven't.
I had a meeting with the gentleman that he came to see me to propose that, that he never followed up with me. It's something we certainly could consider. The issue would be, it takes
Oconee High School has multiple
Yes, sir.
solar panels, and a lot of them are in the parking lot.
Yes, sir. I've
And you
It
can
just
put them on
takes-
the roof.
well, it takes a lot to generate, not a whole.
Well, I mean,
electricity.
you know, you didn't have to do it. Some of the schools don't have enough land,
Yes, sir.
but you know, if you just do 2 or 3 schools.
Well, we could certainly pursue that. Another option we looked at was, natural gas for our transportation. And,
Yeah, the Democrats want to tax that.
well, we just did not think that was a viable route for us to take, because we'd have to retrofit we had just purchased all those buses, and then we'd have to go back.
And we didn't have the staff trained to handle those
But
kinds of.
we do look at how we can save energy. Mr. Golden is our energy consultant and does a very good job there. We feel like this LED lighting you see in
Yeah.
here, we're going to more and more of that, and we're gonna save money. We entered into an agreement, you may remember, with Georgia Power to do some LED changeover for us, and we actually ended up with a net positive cash flow, I think, out of that project. So we were able to make the transition, and then we'll benefit from, you don't have to have somebody come change these bulbs every few months. They're supposed to last about 10 years, so we hope that that'll,
The utility authority put in a solar field,
yes.
and we're reaping quite a bit of electrical savings.
Well, we certainly would,
I'll get the engineer to get in touch with you.
yes, sir. We're open any way we can save money.
Are there things that maybe Mr. Golden could identify that, could bring to your attention that might, consider some energy?
Johnny, you'll have to speak to that.
I didn't hear all the questions.
Are there some savings you could identify that we could,
Put me on the spot.
well, I can give one example.
Just a bit sarcastic, but we tried to cut times, like this summer, we have new schedules on air conditioning and such as that. Dr. Miller mentioned part of the lighting, this summer we're replacing, full parking lot lights with LED lights. So, that's a work in progress there, just don't cut back.
We have, the lights in the school at night, there's some school systems that are going to, I don't know if you've ever heard that phrase, crooks don't like the dark. And so as a security and a energy saving, the problem we run into there is many of our custodians work into the night hours, and so they're not real comfortable with a dark building and them being there by themselves. So that's something we have to navigate, in looking at the energy saving, but we certainly would.
How many of these lights had the motion when we put them in? I'm pretty sure a lot of them were added in these classrooms, motion detected. So, I mean, if they're out of the room, they didn't cut them off. Now they go off after so many minutes of no use.
The biggest thing we're dealing with though is, Gary can tell you the increase in the cost of energy. And they've been prime example is these last 10 days, the cost has been much higher than this time of typically, this time of the year, so it's the,
Hottest May on
kilowatt
record.
hour. Pardon?
They say today is the hottest May on record, and we feel it with.
Is anybody gonna study on parking the buses here versus letting them take them home and keep them?
I
Saying is it fuel?
Rick, I will leave that one to Ricky. He said it would save money because they didn't have to come back with, the fuel. And he basically looked at it from the standpoint of the person's route. And I trusted him and I trust Angie to make the determination whether this bus driver should be bringing it back or forth, or it's better on their route. They're starting the day at the beginning of their route and they're ending at the end of their route. So that's basically how it's been determined. Now, I can't promise you that that's how it's still determined, but when Ricky was here, that's how it was determined.
Well, when he was here, fuel was cheaper though, wasn't it?
No, it was actually all time high with Hurricane Katrina.
I just wondered because, some of these guys come all the way from Smithville, drive an empty bus, do the route, drive an empty bus back down here.
Okay.
I mean,
We should make it beneficial to the system. If it's beneficial for that bus to stay out there and not come back all the way, then
that's what
I
my
asked
question.
Ricky to do, and that's what we can ask Trey.
That's will be part of our new person's marching.
Well, the new
orders.
person, I think they should look at it right away.
Yes, sir. Well, there's there was an article in the Atlanta Constitution today, and it was one of the Atlanta area schools, and they found a lot of buses that were not being serviced as scheduled, that were on the road without, and I don't know that that's happened with us, but I hope that one of my goals in this position is that we'll take a hard look at all those things to make sure. I had a superintendent in another system tell me they had buses that had not had their oil changed in a year or more, and that's a waste of money.
That's inexcusable.
Yes, sir. And so we I don't believe anything like that's going on here, but I believe we can identify ways to save money that'll.
And we also have some bus drivers that think their bus is a jet.
Well, that goes to driver performance.
I've
Yes, sir.
called Mr. Miller several times when you couldn't catch him and you were doing 65 and he was leaving you. One bus driver in particular.
But now, we have a yearly inspection of the buses.
Yes.
And the records are inspected.
Yes, ma'am.
So why wouldn't, if we weren't doing something, wouldn't that come up? And I know that it's in the summer when they do those inspections.
Well, we complete the records, so from what I was reading in the Atlanta situation was that they had that yearly inspection, yet they were still operating buses that had, and some of it was minor, they had a seat cushion that needed to be replaced. It wasn't a major mechanical that they were operating. I don't know that that's going on here, but that will be part of the idea of this new role, is to make sure that we're staying on top of those things.
It was easier for them individuals to change the sheet, saying that they had looked at the bus than it was to change oil. And so they were changing the paperwork.
They weren't changed to run buses.
Right. That is not Lee County.
Yeah, that was another system, and I'm not being critical of our drivers or Miss Angie or anybody, but it's a substantial, if you look at the numbers Gary shared tonight, we spend more on transportation than we do on administrative costs.
Okay.
And so we're making a huge investment there, not only in the personnel, but also in the buses we have, and
So we can hire you tomorrow if you want to buy the bus.
Yeah, if anybody's interested, we could, and that's part of the issue too, is we can't get drivers, and one issue is student behavior. And we've got to get that. We're blessed, we have good kids, but we can do better there.
Any other questions? Comments?
I have some concerns, in looking online at, what a budget should be as far as the salaries, and then, the amount that goes to instruction. And the general consensus is from the state of Georgia and from the American Association of School Administration is they recommend 80 to 85% on salaries. Georgia says 85. Well, I don't know, Gary, my calculations were like 87.8. I'm not exactly sure, where we're different, but it seems like the salaries are escalating. And all that does is take away from instruction. I mean, there's 100%, and you take 87.8 and you have 12.
You said this, the recommended was what?
By one organization, 80 to 85% on salaries, and
We're
Georgia.
2% above that.
85%, and we're above that.
2% above that.
Well, I've got 80, but 2%.
But now, see, and do they include capital outlay and debt service in their calculation? Because if they don't, I mean, we're below that. So you've got to, and this is the thing, every time when you go to one school system to the next and they ask for numbers from one school, if every school system is not consistent in the way that they give the numbers to the state, then the numbers are no good.
Well, I understand, but I mean, what they pinpointed was salaries.
Mhm.
That's all. They suggested that salaries be below the 85th percentile.
Okay.
And I just see ours continuing to go up. And that's a concern.
Any other comments?
Mr. Chairman,
I would like to speak.
Go ahead, Dr. Clay, deal if you're right with Dr. Clay.
first I would like to commend the board for presenting a budget that does not require a tax increase. And we appreciate that. I do have several concerns that I'd just like to mention. You veteran board members have probably heard some of these before. May not want to hear them again. But the 5.3 million of expenditures over revenue leaves us with a balance of $700 and something thousand, which if that holds true, we'll be borrowing money the following July. That'll be the first time Lee County Board of Education has borrowed operational money since 1964. Now, if that figure does not hold true, if that actually a ending balance of $5 or $6 million more than anticipated, we ought to be in good shape to go until tax starts coming in usually around November. And that's what it needs to be. We need to have enough there. But it's a little bit confusing to a person out here looking at the budget and seeing, my goodness, you're down to $700,000 here and got 4 more months before the taxes are coming in. And I just wonder if we can't get a more realistic figure there. That, when you come up with an 18.6 million levy, and they say, well, good gracious, you're certainly gonna need it because you're gonna be out of money at the end of June. So I just wonder if that would not be a little bit more transparent if we could come up with a realistic end of the year budget. Another thing is, and Ms. Ford just mentioned this, I had thought that maybe we need to look closely at personnel costs. It's mighty easy to add another position, and I was shocked when I saw what transportation ran. I thought I maybe I'd apply for that, but I guess you've already filled it. And the other concern I have is I don't see anything budgeted in here for what SPLOST funds will be used to pay off any bonds that are currently being paid ad valorem tax. Now, Lee County is one of 12% of the school system in Georgia that even have a bond tax. I think the only one in our Risa district besides Lee is Miller County. So I wish you would look at that and see if somehow you can't pay these bonds off all with SPLOST money. Now, I know you always got needs, and see things you'd like to do. But let me mention this, taxpayers have needs too. And, speaking of one segment of taxpayers is the farmer. They're struggling now. They are in survival mode and have been in survival mode for several years. And things don't look bright now. And whether you look at the corn grower or the crop land or the cattle person, they're all in survival mode. Prices are low. The storm played havoc, not only on pecan, but timber. And so I encourage you to remember the needs of the taxpayers as you think about the needs of the school system. And I appreciate the opportunity to make a comment.
Thank you, Dr. Clay. Mr. Wakefield.
Well, I'm glad that Dr. Clay brought those points up. And I would never pretend to act like I know anything about what it would take to run this school system. It's very complex. It's, you have to work at it harder than I, coming to a couple of meetings now, I see how complex this system is. But the thing that gets me, the raise for the coach, football coach, I believe there was a total like $197,000 additional salaries for that one raise. Is that about right?
I'm not looking at that amount, but I'm not gonna take it that you're wrong. I mean,
In that neighborhood. But we have to come up with close to $200,000 a year more in salaries just to satisfy a football coach. I mean, is that
$3,000
basically what we're
of each
looking
one
at?
of those positions was part of the rate that the state provided. The state provided $3,000 on each one of those positions.
Well, it doesn't, it's the way it was handled. And it's that mindset that this board has, that we can just do these sort of things. Make these kind of decisions, spend this kind of money. We've got all these administrators. You were just talking about the bus,
Transportation director.
transportation director. You're hiring another person to go in there to boost up what you've already got. Instead of fixing what you got, you're just gonna pour more money into trying to Band-Aid a bad situation. It's that kind of spending, this got this budget as big as it is. And instead of making some hard calls and getting in there and cleaning out what needs to be cleaned out and fix the transportation system, you're just throwing some money at it. It's just this kind of mindset over and over and over again. It's just snowballs and snowballs, and this thing is out of control. And I really, y'all need to do you just got to make some hard calls and cut back. Remember just what Dr. Clay was saying, the farmers have to bear a lot of this responsibility, this financial responsibility. And we had a huge hurricane last fall, and there's been no federal relief at all coming. We had a little bit of state money come through. No federal relief at all. And these guys are at best are in survival mode. And it's just a huge encumbrance that you, going forward, you just have to be more conservative in your spending. That's all I got to say.
Thank you, sir.
Tell me that the definition of a successful farmer now is one that has other income or has a wife with a good job with benefits. That's your successful farmer.
Anybody else? Well, we thank you for being here. Thank you for your comments. And we'll take all that into consideration. Thank you. Dr. Miller, do you have anything?
We'll have a hearing again next month.
Next Monday at 5 p.m. And then our regular board meeting at 6 after that, right?
5:30.
5:30, okay.
To follow. Just to follow.
Just to follow, yeah. Could be longer. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion and a second. All those in favor, let me know by saying aye. Aye. Any opposition? Thank you for being here.